Hello and welcome back to Game Brigade. I'm your host, Brian. And on this show, we do reviews, previews, and playthroughs of your favorite games. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Today on the show, I want to talk about something a little bit different. And that's because I've been wanting to do this conversational piece for a little bit. I talked about it on my Instagram story. So if you're interested in joining in on those conversations and talking with me, links are always in the description down below. But I want to talk about FOMO and how to combat it. But to begin that conversation, I need to grab something off my wall. So let me go and grab that and I'll be right back. Okay, so let's talk about FOMO and what FOMO is to you or me. Wait, hold on. Dang it. I got too much stuff. Well, let's get these out of the way and let's actually have a conversation. And the reason why I wanted to bring out my Mythic Games Joan of Arc box is because I think it's a perfect example of what's going on right now on Kickstarter and the urges that we can have as consumers and the overindulgence that we can experience, and how hard it can be to combat those overindulgences. And the reason I'm not here blasting Mythic Games, although it might come off that way, the reason why I wanted to talk about Joan of Arc specifically is Mythic Games has just recently completed their latest campaign, Darkest Dungeon. And Darkest Dungeon to me looks like another Joan of Arc. An extremely large, mini-based game with gameplay that's subpar. When I bought Joan of Arc, I didn't know much about the gameplay. I didn't do much research into it, but the minis were incredible. Everything looked great. I really was looking for a medieval, authentic war game, which this promised to be. And so I went effectively all in, almost, with this game. And when it finally arrived on my doorstep and I was able to play it, in fact, we even painted some of the minis. Like, we went all out on this one. We got to play it, and it didn't play very well. It felt like the rules were half-baked. And I say this, I've said this multiple times when I've reviewed Mythic Games. The rules feel like they didn't go through enough play testing, and I feel like they didn't go through play testing enough beyond Mythic Games' central core of testers. They didn't go to an independent test house or to other people, independent reviewers, to flesh out the game to see where are identifying mistakes that we can fix with this game. Because even in the first introductory scenarios, there was clear situations that didn't feel right. And I spent a fairly good amount of money on this. And with the next Joan of Arc Kickstarter, they launched the 1.5 fix to the core rules. I haven't had a chance to play the 1.5 rules. I'm still waiting on that Kickstarter to ship. It's been in limbo for a very long time. But as I wait for the Joan of Arc 1.5 fixes, I'm sitting here with this large game effectively doing no value for me other than being a good shelf piece. And I wanted to talk about that because the reason I bought this game was fear of missing out, the FOMO effect. The fact that this game was a Kickstarter exclusive and there was no other way that I was able to buy this game other than through Kickstarter. And there's other games that are coming out like that, for example, Darkest Dungeon, which when I reviewed that game, to me it looked like a heavily mini-laden game that's going to look like this, which you will have to find storage solution for all these boxes. This sucks, having to store this. I want to be able to display my board game pieces, as you can tell behind me, which you can't see because it's all blocked. And having all these doesn't allow me to do that. So Darkest Dungeon is going to be another game filled with boxes that arrive at your door. You're going to have expansions that you might not even touch. I haven't touched the Reliquary. I haven't played Legendary Dragon. I haven't played Unleash Hell. I've just played the two boxes down here. There is a time though when that FOMO bug bites you where you think you need these things. So let's talk about how can we combat it? How could we say no to this and only purchase when we need it? I think the first thing that I did was, one, I actually started my channel to do that, to effectively research myself on games that I wanted to look into, and if it was of value to someone else and maybe they could learn something from what I experienced. I didn't want this to happen to me again. So I started my channel to force myself to research these Kickstarters and learn as much about them as I can prior to making a significant back. I have also found myself limiting the amount of games that I back per month. As a content creator, it's difficult for me to sometimes express to you guys when a game is a game that I would back. Because when I do my Kickstarter reviews, I don't say up front if I'm backing this game or not. I dive into all the details of the game. I look at the financial aspects, I look at the gameplay aspects, and I say, this is what I think of the game. What are you going to do? Because to me, it's not my decision if you should back it or not. I'm going to lay out all the details that I could find, and then hopefully that gives you enough information to make a good choice. I started the callback series so you guys can get a little bit more information about games that I specifically was backing to kind of give you an idea in terms of my personal taste and where I put my money to. And I found that I was limiting myself to 2 Kickstarters a month, which seems to be my average. There has been months where I've done up to 5, and I always regret that because when the games arrive all at once, it seems, it's like, man, I don't have time to play all these games now. I have so many games. So I found that if I limited myself to 2 games a month, that kind of gave me enough separation time where I can play the games I need to play. I also want to talk about, as a content creator, it's easy for me and for other people in the space to sound like we're hyped up on every game, is that for every game should be a back. A lot of the games we cover are good games. In fact, I try to only cover games that I personally have an interest in. If it's a game that I'm not really interested in, I'm not going to cover it. And so already by me covering it, there's something that strikes me enough to want to spend the several hours of research time it takes to do a video. But I don't want you guys to have the expectation that I think you should be backing every single game I cover. Sometimes I get that impression reading the comments that people have an expectation that I think you should be backing this game, and that's not where I'm coming from. I want you guys to have some idea of what my opinion is in terms of that. So let's back it up though and talk about the FOMO and the tools that I'm using to combat FOMO. First off, as I said, I limit myself in terms of how much I can back. 2, I have to take a deep dive look into expansions and have a good consideration of, is that expansion something that I'm truly wanting to play or buy? There's a lot of times, and I still am guilty of this, I still to this day buy too much when it comes to Kickstarter because it's so easy to just want more. Perfect example was Ankh. I went all in on Ankh, and I am wishy-washy on its gameplay. So don't think I'm perfect in this as well. But when you're looking at games like Darkest Dungeon or anything like that that has an expansive amount of content, especially backloaded with expansion content, we need to decide, are these things that we're actually going to play? And it's hard because there are times when we're discussing the financial avenue of a game that buying the all-in is the most financially viable way to resell this game at a later date. I'll have a better chance reselling Joan of Arc with all of this content rather than just this. This just won't move as easily as these will. So it's a give and take, if that makes any sense. So basically, you don't need every expansion, and understand that sometimes it's better to get the base edition of a game. Although it might not be the most financially best decision in terms of what I consider a best back. Generally, yes, the deluxe edition and all the expansions are going to be, in my opinion, the most financially viable if you plan on reselling. A lot of people don't resell their games. That's the reality of the fact. The final thing that I want to talk about was you don't need every game. I talked about this a little earlier. Just to finish up with the last point that I did have outlined was when you can understand what FOMO is, when you can understand the pull of what FOMO is, that's when you can begin to control FOMO and you can understand its pull. And that's when you can start to pull back and say, you know what, I don't need this game. One of the tricks that I've been doing lately is not backing unless there's an early bird special. That's different. But not backing day one. There's no benefit to having an early backer number a majority of the time. None of those things matter. Sit on it, sleep on it, and let it decide to you. Sometimes I'll even back just $1. And we'll talk about that in another video in terms of what are good backing strategies. But backing later in the campaign gives you more time to flesh out the campaign, see everything that's happening, see the kind of strategies the company is using in terms of ways they want to influence your dollar. And at the end of the day, the final 48 hours is when I usually make my backing decisions, because then at that point, I've seen everything that's coming up and I can make a smarter decision if this game is going to fit for my collection. And a lot of times people ask me, did you back a game? Majority of the times it's no, even though I want the game. I look at my collection and I say, how does this game evolve in my collection? And doing these minor things has helped me resist FOMO and hopefully will make me not prevent me from having mistakes like these. And unfortunately, I feel that Joan of Arc has been a mistake. And I'm hoping that 1.5 eventually will fix it. Otherwise, 1.5 was another financial mistake. And I am still learning, as we all are. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. This is a very new process for me, this conversational piece. Normally we're talking about a subject or talking about a game, but I wanted to kind of bring into more of these conversational, I forgot to drink my coffee, these more conversational pieces. So let me know in the comment section down below. For the giveaway, for the comment, we're gonna do hashtag FOMO, F-O-M-O, and let me know what you guys think of this video. I want to know if this is something I should be fleshing out more in terms of more conversational pieces. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. If you really want to support the channel, please smash that like button. I want to see all of you smashing that like button, as well as subscribing if you are new to the channel. This is Brian with Game Brigade, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.